It's the Eagle Community Television Forum with your host, Gary Shorman.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Forum on Eagle Television. It's good to have you watching along. Our program is brought to you by HaysMed. We're going to be talking to some of the leaders in the area, talking to them about their leadership style, what they do in their companies, how they manage, and how they help their companies go forward. Our first guest on this series of leaders, Parke, who's the CEO of Midwest Energy. Pat, you've been at Midwest Energy now for a year. And what have you learned in your first year at Midwest Energy, other than the fact that we all need electricity?
You know, actually in this position for a year at Midwest.
You've actually been there for a while.
35 years.
35 years. CEO for the past year.
And
was that a change? I know you knew people there. You've been there a long time. Was that a change?
My life got busier, but because I knew the people, I knew the company, the processes, and so on, it was a very smooth transition. So keeping busy, but I really enjoy the work.
So you move, you have a new position, new title, but what have you learned being in that chair versus in the operations role where you were before?
You know, I'm encountering new experiences, but really a lot of the things I learned in previous jobs still apply. The most important thing for a leader is communication. And for the different groups that we work with, there are different things that are most important about which to communicate, but a leader must be able to communicate clearly.
You know, we talk about that in our company, and sometimes you say Eagle Communications, that's our title, we do it all the time. But as people know out there, sometimes it doesn't work, it's not perfect. How do you go about doing it? Because your company is like ours, it's spread out, multiple locations, people in cars, people, you know, bad weather, all that. How do you keep the communication current in your company?
You must communicate frequently and repeat the message. And again, for different groups in the company, different things are important. And you know, most of our employees are frontline employees. The guys working on the gas lines, the linemen, customer service reps in the front office. And the most important thing with them is to make sure they know that I care about their personal well-being. And so in our business, safety is number one priority. And so I try to attend as many safety meetings as I can fit into my schedule and encourage the guys to look out for each other, to make sure they think before they do anything, you know, remember their safety training and so on. Safety is at the top of the list, and it's worth communicating that every time we get together.
You know, there's always that sense of urgency, and we see that, you know, we've had, seems like a very busy winter for snow. There's a sense of urgency to get it done now, depending on your teammate, saying, hey, maybe we ought to think about this or consider doing it another way is so important. That's just not only the communication from the corporate office or the CEO, but it's that communication back and forth. If you see something wrong going on, do something different. And you have to encourage that, but you also have to have an environment where that works.
Absolutely. One of the things that we require before the guys start a job, electric or gas, if they're working together, we have a tailgate session. They talk through the work they're going to do, the procedures they follow, and so on. And especially in the cases of electric hotline work, there's always somebody watching the others work, and we give anyone the authority to stop a job, even if it's an apprentice and they see something wrong. If they don't think it's safe, they can stop the job.
You know, that does say a lot, because people at the other end of the line want electricity now. They don't like to wait the extra 10 minutes, but those few seconds mean lives, frankly. You know, when your voltage on those big lines, the gas somewhere in the wrong place could cause a lot of problems and also experience a lot of danger for your team.
Absolutely. Our guys literally work within arm's length or moments away from danger or even death. And so we want them to think before they do anything. And we are, just in our busy lives, we're always hurrying. We do so much by habit. Even when we get in a car and drive, we do things by habit. And we want to encourage everyone to use their slow brain, not their fast brain. Use the slow brain. Think before you do something.
We talk about SOS, smart or stupid. You get that choice to make, and sometimes when you're doing fast, you're not making the smartest decisions. And being able to do that is so important. So communicate, work on doing that. How do you communicate technology-wise? Because, you know, there's 1,000 ways it seems like anymore, whether you do email, Twitter, you know, voice text, whatever. What's the favorite way you communicate to help get the right message?
Well, you've got to use all the channels, and obviously email is the fastest way to reach a large group, but the way that carries the most weight is to speak to someone face to face. And so it's always good to be present, and again, that's why I like to go out to the safety meetings. It isn't just about safety, but listening to any other questions or concerns the employees have.
That's great. One of the challenges I know we've had this year is weather. And sometimes with weather you have cold, which means parts don't work, trucks don't work, equipment doesn't work right. Attitude can suck. And being a leader, you have to work on how do you get the attitude to be positive, because now you're dealing with customers and you're trying to get that done. How does that work?
Sure. You know, the most important thing is have people who want to work. And so in hiring, attitude is such an important thing. And of course, a good camaraderie between the employees. They encourage each other. They know how important their job is. They know customers want the lights back on. They want gas service restored quickly. We've got to do it safely. But if you hire people with the right attitudes and you treat them with respect, the rest of it takes care of itself.
One of the challenges you have where you're spread out is that you have not only the staff that's out there, the team that's out there fixing the problems, the poles down, all that stuff, and there's been some of that this past winter, but you also have the team back that is answering the questions on for all the people calling in. I don't have my electrician, whatever. How do you train that team? How do you communicate and keep a positive attitude in that team?
It can be pretty tough for the folks answering the phone, and understandably, when someone is waiting for their power to come back on, they can be impatient, and we've got to understand that, to treat the customer with respect. And you know, I think most people will understand that we didn't build this system in a day or a week, and sometimes we can't put it all back up in a day. And most people are very patient with us. You know, you get, especially out in rural areas, a big storm comes through, and if it's deep snow, deep mud, we might be pulling the trucks with caterpillars. And when you're doing that, it just doesn't go too quickly. But you bring as many forces to bear as you can, as many troops. If we need to bring in contractors, we do that. Bring in other utilities to help us out, and likewise, we turn around and we help other utilities.
Let's talk about how does that system work, because many times I've seen you and your team heading out to other places to help. How does that get set up? You know a storm's going through, but you say some of the storms, they start here, but they go all the way up, so it's not like there's a lot of extra teams hanging out just to go help.
Sure. Things like ice storms tend to be a little more localized, and so just a few weeks ago we had about 27 guys in Kansas City for about a week, I think, helping Kansas City Power and Light out. But we have tools that help us predict storm damage. One is called an ice damage index. We subscribe to that service, and it is a pretty darn good predictor of how bad damage will be. And if we see that we potentially will have damage in our area, we will not let our guys go elsewhere to work. So we want to make sure we keep them at home.
I had just at a meeting where Jim Cantori from the Weather Channel was one of the speakers. And he talked about when he shows up, people get nervous because he shows up in all the bad weather, including where the tornadoes are, where all those things take place. So he's there. You know, it seems like this past winter has been more difficult maybe than some others. How does it work? Every year is different. So how do you make sure you stay ahead of that?
Really, we just, I think in advance we want to make sure we have enough materials on hand, and our vendors, our suppliers are real good with working with us to make sure. Sometimes it's a just-in-time delivery service on things like poles, but otherwise it's just making sure that we have the right, enough men in the right spot, ready to go, make sure our trucks are all in order and working, and so you need well in advance a good fleet maintenance program to make sure that when times get tough, you don't have trucks breaking down in the field. In the last couple of years, we've made great strides in that to make sure that the big trucks remain in service, even though they do get a lot of wear and tear. Again, if they're being dragged around by caterpillars and so on, that could be hard on the vehicles. Yeah, it'd be hard on everything when that happens. Okay, we talked about communication important, having a good attitude and helping your team have a good attitude. What else do you have on your list of things that make good leaders in a position of running a company in our community? Well, most obviously you got to realize you can't do it yourself. Hopefully you have a lot more people on board who are actually smarter than you are about their particular area of expertise. And so that's something that I've really tried to do is encourage collaboration. If I bring out a new idea, I want the entire senior management team giving me their reaction to what's being proposed. And so every chance I get, I look for feedback from other people, not just the senior team, but others down into the organization. In fact, in April, I'll be attending what we call our Joint Safety Advisory Committee meeting. I have some ideas about safety, but I don't want to move forward with those until we get the feedback from the frontline employees.
One thing about collaboration is you have to get people together in ways, shapes, or form. Do you use technology to do some of that with video stuff, or do you try to get them one-on-one, face-to-face like we're talking today?
It depends what the situation is, Gary. We do have the capability between several of our offices to use interactive TV, so if it'll be a relatively quick meeting, we can meet that way, just using the television technology. If it's a half-day, day-long meeting, we'll bring people in face-to-face.
Pat, you describe the area for our viewers of where you cover, east to west, north to south, and then I have a follow-up question for that.
Midwest Energy serves in part of 40 of our 105 counties in Kansas. We are in 100 communities. So our natural gas business, if you think along Highway 36, St. Francis to Norton on the north, we go as far south as Scott City, Leota, Lake and Deerfield to the southwest, and then in the Hayes, Russell area, we have natural gas. Our electric business to the west, we're rural areas to the Colorado border, west of Goodland, down here toward Hayes, around the Great Bend area, and then we'll go as far southeast as Lyons, the Claflin area, approaching some of the small towns on the west side of Hutchinson.
So we talked about, those things, communication, collaboration, you mentioned positive attitude, working with good people to get there. On the other side of it, you go to bed at night and you wake up going, boy, what am I going to do about this? What are the challenges you see, because you cover such a broad area?
We are, in fact, now redoing our strategic plan and thinking about the challenges we'll be facing in the future. And some of those are just inherent in our service territory here that we can't do a lot about. The demographic changes, aging population, declining population, reduced tax base, loss of political clout. So those things are important for us to keep in mind and will guide some of our strategies. We're also dependent on the natural resources that are out here. About 20–25% of our electric energy is used to pump oil. Another large percentage goes to moving natural gas in the big pipelines, moving crude oil. Water is very important. In Hayes, we think about water supply for domestic and commercial use. But on the natural gas side of our business, almost half of our gas is used to pump water for irrigation. And so that's important for those local economies where there is a lot of irrigation, not much around Hayes here, but certainly farther west and south. And that large volume of gas that we deliver for irrigation helps keep our rates low for our residential and commercial customers. Our gas delivery rates, residential and general service, are the lowest in the state, even though we have a lot of rural areas, small towns with low customer density. It's because we're selling gas to the irrigation wells.
When you look at that in building a strategic plan, how do you get all of those different things together and get a good strategic plan? It's one thing to have one line of business, but where you have multiple lines, you also have infrastructure that has age-related things to that as well. Keeping that in place, that's probably a process. How do you go about that?
We in fact, again, we are in the throes of doing that right now, identifying our strengths, our weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, as anyone does when they do a strategic plan. We'll do a little bit of risk assessment, and then in early April, our board and senior staff will get together for a full day of planning. We'll identify the main strategic issues, the things that are biggest to us, and start laying out strategies for the next 3 to 5 years as to how we will move forward to address those.
It used to be easier, in our case, to look at 5 years out. Seems like 3 years is a better number because of the rapid change, not so much in maybe the core infrastructure, but the processes that go along with that, the technology that goes along with that, the ability to monitor things, how you go about monitoring some of that. It speeds up the process. So a 3-year plan, if you can get that right, you're probably doing pretty good.
Well, actually, Gary, we try to do a 10-year financial forecast.
Yes.
Now, we know that the next 5, we're probably pretty close. What happens after that, who knows? But we lay out construction projects for many years in advance. We spend about $45 million a year on our gas electric business for safety, reliability improvements, and new loads. So those are big projects, can't be done quickly, and so you've got to lay out the priorities as you think about the future. Now, a big challenge for us, though, especially on the electric side, technology is changing so fast. Solar panels are advancing, battery technology, we read about it every day. So we have what could be a competing technology, or we may be able to use it in part. So that will require a new kind of grid, a new way of operating the grid. At the same time, we have to keep the existing grid running well. So that will present a big challenge for us to balance those considerations.
That's a good way for a place for us to take a break here, because I wanted to come back and talk about that. Last time we were together, we talked about the solar project you were doing, some of the wind energy that you use for supply purposes. I was curious how that's going and how that's changing going forward, tying in with your plan long term and that 10-year strategic plan on how that works.
Very good.
Our guest is CEO of Midwest Energy, Parke. Back after this.
Hayes Med is your first and best choice for healthcare. They're the only facility providing tertiary level services in this region, with more than 70 physicians and 26 specialties ranging from heart, orthopedic, spine care, cancer, obstetrics and gynecology, wound care, rehabilitation and surgery, including the Da Vinci robotic surgery. Hayes Med is your comprehensive health provider for people throughout Western Kansas. Hayes Med, helping people be healthy.
Eagle Communications is your ultimate business partner. We provide business class phone with customizable features and fast, reliable internet. Your knowledgeable team at Technology Solutions has a broad base of IT services to meet your needs. Let the experts at Marketing Solutions get your message to the right people on the best platforms. The only piece missing is your business. Call Eagle Communications today at 877-61-EAGLE.
Hi everyone, this is Gerard Welbrock inviting you to join us for Tiger Talk. We record it over the noon hours, Mondays at Old Chicago, north of the interstate in Hayes, and play back at 6 o'clock Monday nights on Tiger Radio Mix 103. You can also catch it on Eagle TV's channel 14 and 614, Tuesday and Wednesdays at 10 a.m. and 7 p.m., and always on HayesPost.com. So join us for Tiger Talk over the noon hour Mondays at Old Chicago.
Hi again, and welcome back to the second half of our forum program. We're talking about leadership and leaders in our community. Parke, CEO of Midwest Energy, is our guest. If you have some ideas, like you just send them to me at gary.shorman@eaglecom.net. You can also find us on Facebook under ECTV Forum. With that thought in mind, we're going to talk about the grid infrastructure and all that on the serious side. Customers and communicating with customers is becoming bigger and bigger, to the point that people want to know how long they're going to be out, what they're doing. How do you tackle the technology issue and lead through that versus just kind of getting behind, whether it be social media like the Facebook kind of things, or your online site that you have for, we're going to be out for another 5 hours, or there's 10,000 customers out, et cetera?
The technology is really playing a much bigger role in our business, and a project that we're just about through now is installing automated meter reading, both on our gas and electric system. I'd say on our gas meters are almost completely done, 42,000 gas meters. Electric meters, we're probably about 95 or 90% done right now. By the second half of this year, my hope is that we will be able to start presenting to customers online how much energy they used the day before. You know, right now when you get a bill, you may have used that electricity 15 days ago, a month, 45 days ago. And so it's difficult for a customer who's really trying to save energy or use it more efficiently to know, is what I'm doing having an impact? Once we get this system up and running, people will be able to go online again and see what's happened the last 2 or 3 days.
And then they can adjust. And once you see that number and it says, hey, I need to slow up, speed up, et cetera, if I'm going to stay within my budget. I know you have some flexibility things to do with customers and budget, and you guys work well with customers to do that and take care of that. So that's interesting. What about social media and communicating with customers that way? Has that become a tool?
It has become a great tool, as you've probably seen our Facebook page, and we use that a lot during outages, giving customers information about how many people are out right now. Our outage map, we can display that online, and those tools will only get better as we begin to realize the capabilities of this automated metering system. Today, a customer has to call us if they're out of power. Once this is all ready to go, the meter will tell us.
Stop. It'll stop if there's no electricity.
The meter will send us a signal if it's has lost power, and when power is restored. So the knowledge of what's happening out in the field will get much better for us.
You know, all that stuff takes place, and you have those things that cause service issues. You just can't do it. But as a CEO, I know that it's hard to sit through and watch those when you know you want your customers to have the service back. And you know, your map's a big map, and it just doesn't happen. You don't have special dust over at Midwest Energy. You can just throw out there and fix it.
No, there is no magic wand.
There's not.
Again, it takes a good team, advanced preparation, and then when the crisis hits, you let people do their job and you stand back.
You mentioned going into this, the grid changing, you know, batteries, solar. How's that solar project going?
We've got the 1 megawatt solar array out at Colby right now, fully subscribed. So we could probably have interest in more units than just that. And so interestingly enough, we have probably at least 5 of our big industrial customers now asking us, are there solar projects that can be done to help them? And it isn't necessarily because it's the lowest price. In fact, solar is not the low price right now. But they may be selling a product into their market that there's an advantage if they can say it's sustainably produced. And so for marketing reasons, they may want to buy solar energy or wind energy. Others are looking for the price stability, because with a solar installation or wind, once you've built it, that is the main cost, and so you have a relatively stable price then for the life of the project.
What about wind energy? Just drove through the big wind farm. I know you subscribe, get some wind, or get the output from some of those for some of your customers.
That's correct. About 36% of the electricity generated in Kansas today is wind energy. Midwest Energy, about for us, 30% of what we deliver over the course of the year is from the wind. So big proportion. People probably wouldn't have thought of that a few years ago being the case. A big challenge for us is that there is so much wind being produced in western Kansas, it has to be shipped somewhere else. We can't use it all.
You can't store it in a giant cavern somewhere.
No, there is no big battery for the wind farm. Probably never will be at that scale. So we've got to move the wind energy somewhere else over transmission lines that were originally designed to bring energy from east to west, and now it's going the other direction.
You're upstream.
We're going the other direction, and finding that a lot of investment needs to be made to carry that wind energy out. We are part of a 14-state power pool called the Southwest Power Pool that all of these utilities work together. And what we're finding, though, is that this wind energy that's being moved somewhere else, our customers, we think are being burdened with more transmission costs than they should. So we are working closely with Sunflower Electric Co-op and other utilities in a similar situation here to try to make sure the allocation process doesn't unfairly burden our customers.
You know, you mentioned something, and it goes into play in that 30% number. To realize you go home, you turn on the light, that 30% of that average is produced by wind power. That's really pretty cool. You think of where we are. Obviously, everybody knows we have a lot of wind, but to see that we're producing power that way, congratulations to you and your team for figuring out how to have a more sustainable source of energy here. With that goes the grid. Are we up to speed where we need to be, or is that where the $45 million of investment go every
there's
year?
always, you know, when we invest in that facility, we depreciate those costs over 30 to 50 years, depending what the asset is. So we've got to be very prudent about that, because again, as the price of potentially competing technologies comes down, we need to make sure that we aren't over-investing today, but yet we are prepared for the future. And it's not just reliability anymore, it's the security. Cybersecurity is a very big issue for both gas and electric utilities.
Now, political, you mentioned political cloud, and one of the things kind of concerned, how much you don't think about your turning on the light switch and being a political issue. How do you deal with that end, and do you have a big team that deals with that, or does that basically fall into your office?
We have 2 or 3 of us who are involved a fair amount during the legislative season. We do very little at the federal level, but we are very connected in Topeka. Prior to taking this position, you know, I just thought, okay, that's just something that's something unpleasant that somebody has to do, but it's really very, very important. You know, we hear negatively the term a special interest group. Well, in our case, since we're a customer-owned utility, our customers are our special interest. And so we stay very in tune with what's going on in Topeka. Last year we had a couple really big victories that are good for our customers. We've got a couple other issues working this year. We just have to be there. In fact, several times a day during the legislative session, we'll have emails going back and forth with a firm that we work with in Topeka to find out what's going on there, whether we need to testify, what's the latest proposal, and so on. So it's really interesting for a few months here at the beginning of every year.
Somebody out there watching going, I'd like to learn more about Midwest Energy, how you operate as a customer-owned cooperative. Facebook the best way to do that, or do you go to your Midwest Energy website, or just Google Midwest Energy and hope for the best?
Well, you may, you know, we're present in our local community, right? So there's probably someone
like right here on a show
like
this.
There's someone in a town near you that you can visit with. We like to say that we're involved in the PTA, the schools, our churches, our civic clubs, and so on.
We see your name everywhere.
Midwest Energy is. Right, we're part of the, you know, a fundamental part of the community, and actually, though, we like to be unseen. You know, if the lights are on, the gas is flowing just right, that's a perfect life for us. Of course, we know we have challenges, and we have to be out in front of people.
Well, if you have a question, if you have something, obviously there's an open door policy at Midwest Energy. You guys do a great job not only with communicating with customers, we hear that on ways to not only save electricity, but to be safe as well as that. You know, trying to collaborate, trying to good strategic plan long term, putting that in place and have a great attitude. So Pat, thanks for joining us on the program today. Appreciate all you do, and thank your team out there, because when we have the lights on, we're happy. We like that.
That's right. I'd like to say that the guys out in the front lines, the ones who are keeping the gas on, who are keeping the lights on, they are the best public relations team we have.
And they're out in some pretty tough weather this time of year. So
yes, they are.
I know they're doing a great job. Pat, thanks for being here. Thanks to you for watching the Forum program. Our guest was Pat Parke, CEO of Midwest Energy. The Forum brought to you by Hayes Med and by Eagle Communication, our community connected.